So I'm happy to say that I've been running Peak Frameworks for about 1 year now. And in this video, I just wanted to share an update on how the business is going, as well as any changes in my life and my career philosophy. I wanted to make this video because, well, it's a little fun, but also because I think my career path is pretty unique for someone who's gone into finance. And I think it can be instructive for people who are lost in their careers or thinking about what they want to do next. So one of the main reasons why I left finance was because the hours were challenging and I felt that I didn't have a ton of ownership or control over my life. And it was important to me to have that kind of control. And I was really drawn to being a digital entrepreneur because it was one of the only business models that seemed like it could continue to scale and something that I could run by myself. And I think one of the key luxuries if you run something yourself is that you can determine how much input you want to put into the business. I was continually warned, especially by my parents, that entrepreneurship is extremely risky. And I think my perspective on this concept has changed a little bit because I think entrepreneurship is a huge spectrum. And yes, there are many different categories of entrepreneurship that are very risky, but it doesn't always have to be like that. For example, if you raise money from a venture capital firm to pursue an unproven business in a nascent industry, I would classify that as risky. But if you maybe do a search fund and you buy a very proven cash flow generating business, I wouldn't say that's quite as risky. And I'm not saying my progress was a guarantee or that the business will even continue to grow in the future. I just think that when I think about the characteristics of an online business that has very low startup capital costs, it is very different than maybe what you think of traditional entrepreneurship. So let's start with the catchy kind of popcorn numbers. In terms of hours per week, I would say I work between maybe 15 and 25 hours per week, depending on kind of what I'm trying to do. In an ideal world, I'm working somewhere between 10 and 3 p.m. between Monday and Thursday, and I try to take Fridays off, kind of reminiscent of my time in university. Now, when I'm building out a course, especially when I was building out the private equity course, and I was extremely nervous on whether it was going to work or not, I was putting in 40 to 50 hours per week, which is still more in a normal kind of time frame and not at that finance level, but it was definitely keeping me busy. I think one thing I've really learned is that there's so much downtime in a normal job. There's an incredible amount of meetings as well as waiting for authority figures to sign off on things, as well as iterations that just takes up so much time. In terms of actual productive time, lots of people have said you can only get between 2 and 4 hours of high quality work done. When I'm working on Peak Frameworks, I try to be focused, I try to have a very high quality of output, and because I'm working primarily by myself, I'm also the decision maker, and so there's a very efficient workflow. Now, in terms of revenue per month, which I'm honestly a little bit scared to mention because I'm afraid as soon as I mention it, it's going to start nosediving, but I'm making between $20,000 and $30,000 in revenue per month. And this is primarily from courses, but also from resume reviews, as well as some affiliates, as well as some coaching and some YouTube advertising. Now, I was always told on the job that non-recurring revenue is a bad business model, and I can 100% tell you as an entrepreneur that it is a horrible business model. I really dislike how unpredictable my revenue is. All my revenue comes from one-shot purchases, essentially, and it makes it very difficult to forecast because it's quite cyclical, recruiting in itself is cyclical, and it's also volatile on a weekly basis. On a personal note, this also made it extremely difficult to get a mortgage, which was very frustrating. Now, in terms of YouTube revenue, I actually don't make an awful lot off of YouTube, which is why I'm not super compelled to make videos all the time. But I essentially get $300 to maybe $1,000 in revenue in an upside case from YouTube per month. And occasionally I do partnerships with products that I really like, but I don't feel super fussed about this and it's not something I'm focused on. So in terms of how this kind of unfolded, at the beginning of last year, I actually started working on dropshipping. I tried to create an e-commerce business that essentially would purchase products from China and sell them more profitably in the US. I had a couple of friends doing this, and I won't say that it appeared to be bulletproof, but lots of them were making very good money off of doing this, and I think they still are. And I ran it concurrently with Peak Frameworks for a while, but I ended up shutting it down, and it wasn't really kind of a good focus of my time. The first course I made was actually the resume and cover letter course, and I kind of wanted to start with a smaller product because I was completely trash at video editing and I wanted to get my reps in. And I did that building my course on Teachable, which is essentially Shopify for courses, and I launched it to very little success, to be honest. And when that course was floundering, I started getting nervous. I was like, okay, if this private equity course doesn't work, I'm probably going to have to recruit for a job by the end of the year. So I put a lot of effort into further professionalizing the business, making sure the private equity course was top notch, working with Instagram influencers, speaking with headhunters, and just trying to craft the best product I could. And I've been very fortunate that the course has had very good reception. We've had lots of customers who have already received private equity jobs, and I get pretty warm emails every single week thanking me for creating the course. Now, aside from these courses, I was doing coaching for a while for a lot of last year. It's something that I've since stopped because it's frankly just a huge time commitment and quite mentally exhausting for myself. And this kind of decision underpinned why I wanted to do entrepreneurship in the first place. I wanted to focus and do things that I enjoy. I enjoy making content. I enjoy teaching people, but I don't actually enjoy having to walk someone through on a one-to-one basis, especially if it's someone that I haven't met before. So in 2021, I've been spending a lot of my time working on the Finance Starter and Valuation course. And really, it was my belief that there was no good product out there that really teaches everything that a high school or university student or someone trying to switch industries needs to know to kind of break into finance. Now, as I think about the roadmap for the future, I think very clearly I should be making an investment banking course. It's probably the course I get asked for the most on YouTube comments as well as direct emails. So I think that there is a need for kind of a high quality validated course like this. And I'm also working with a couple of friends in the industry, collaborating on courses for equity research as well as restructuring. So in terms of the work itself, I definitely still enjoy kind of teaching people and making content, but I will say a lot of the tasks have become much more mundane. Last year, it was more fun kind of figuring out how to do things, but now video editing has become a little bit of a chore, much less like play, and a lot more like, experiencing traditional work. I've also thought about how finance prep is definitely a finite market. There's only so many people per year that are crazy enough to want to do banking or private equity. And it's made me think if Peak Frameworks is going to be my core business when I'm in my mid to late 30s, I'm going to have to figure out ways to further monetize and continue to expand. So now I want to talk about the main reason why I'm doing this, and that's to unlock more free time. And the question that I get a lot is, what am I doing with my free time? A lot of people my age, they say, if I were to quit my job, I would just be bored all day. And I'm here to strongly challenge that fact. I think if you give yourself enough time to explore different hobbies and different interests, you'll find that you can very easily fill your day with enjoyable things. Aside from Peak Frameworks, the thing I do the most is produce music. I absolutely love producing music, and I'm so glad that I found this hobby because it's something to look forward to every single day. I primarily make like house/future R&B kind of music, kind of in the style of Kate Renata or S.G. Lewis. And it's something that I just really enjoy. I'll spend maybe 5 hours trying to learn Chinese in an attempt to erase the disappointment of my parents, and then I'll also exercise and read throughout the week. And I don't want this to be a flex, although I'm guessing it is, but in 2018, when I was a first-year private equity associate that was very jaded, I created what I thought would be kind of the ideal schedule for my life. And this was kind of the vision of my life that I had that I was working towards. And I'm very proud to say that I've accomplished that, and that's pretty much what I do on a weekly basis. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is kind of my changing philosophy on ambition. Many of my peers are kind of ascending into traditional greatness. Lots of them are graduating from HBS, getting promoted in their funds, making an exorbitant amount of money, while I realize that my path kind of has an upper bound to what it can be. And I think a byproduct of seeing this divergence between me and some of my peers has helped my identity be less rooted in kind of this feeling of greatness. I, of course, still want to have a good life and good career, but I'm less laser focused on kind of making work the only thing in my life. So in terms of my future, I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing in 5 years, but in 2 years, I'm almost definitely going to still be doing Peak Frameworks. I would say there's less than a 5% chance that I end up back in finance, and if I do, you can send me a shameful message on LinkedIn. I personally think that if Peak Frameworks were to fail, I have enough confidence that I would first try again to do some other kind of solo entrepreneurship, and then I would maybe think about doing a search fund. So really, thank you so much for watching these videos. It's hard for me to express how grateful I am for all the subscribers and customers that Peak Frameworks has, because it's really enabled me to live a life that I've really been working towards. So I'll continue to do my best and produce high quality finance content, and I will see you in the next one.